abuse, sin, lust, betrayal, jealousy, cowardice, sorrow, pain, hunger, malice. There's a lot of ways to screw up as a human. But can you keep going and be able to become the best version of yourself? That is Berserk. I think I want to start this off by saying this is gonna be a long video. I hope you guys are strapped in. I want to start this with giving a little background on how Berserk started with me, because it initially, if you guys are clicking on this video and experiencing and understanding where I'm coming from for the very first time, it's been something special. So when I first got into Berserk, this was like 3-4 years ago when I first attempted at Berserk reading it. And I was someone who was not accustomed to something as dark as Berserk, nor open-minded to it. So when I officially, or for the first time, was reading it, I was very against and was very off-put by the series, right? There was a lot wrong with it. Plus I got like, a lot of factors played into it. I tried streaming it. Some reactions work when I do, like, for example, JoJo, those work out. But for Berserk, when I tried streaming it, it didn't work out well. I got paid to do it, so there was like a paid incentive, not the will to do it. Like, there was a lot of things. And then I knew, also was spoiled on the eclipse. And then me knowing the eclipse, my mindset, I had a really big, like, I guess you would say, like, a no-no when it comes to betrayal. And I could not fathom reading something like that. And so my first read, I dropped it at Lost Children. I was done with it. I decided that the series was not for me, and that, you know, some series just not for some different people. But here we are 4 years later on this video, and man, oh man, was I wrong. I think the one thing that makes it super ironic is that not only was I so wrong and thought that the series wouldn't be for me, but as I matured, my taste grew, and my outlook on life and how I perceive things and how I took them changed as well. I think the biggest thing was I didn't hate Griffith. I wasn't mad anymore. And I think maybe it was because, like, I've been able to better discern my personal feelings from fiction, and I didn't have that bias anymore. So I went in with a full open bias, and it wasn't something like, oh, I'm writing a trend because of, like, the unfortunate passing of Mura, rest in peace. It wasn't anything like that. I just suddenly had this thought that, oh, man, I want to give Berserk another chance. And that's all it was. No one told me nothing. No one forced me. No one paid me. It was a feeling. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll read it. See how it goes. And right off the bat, it was like from Black Swordsman to Golden Age, I was enjoying it immensely more. And I was like surprised myself, and I was like, I've read this stuff, so why is it any different this time? And I don't have an explanation for it. But without further ado, let's just start talking about Black Swordsman. So right off the bat, when you get into Black Swordsman, you meet this very asshole, very to himself. He seems like he comes off this very like rude like character, but there's more than meets the eye. You slowly, as you read Black Swordsman, even without the context, you seem to feel like there's a reason why he's acting this way. There has to be something here. And I think the first time you really feel that, in my opinion, and you really saw it for what it was, is I can't remember the little princess's name, where he ends up killing the girl's father, and he in his own messed up way, the way Guts was using the way he like phrases stuff, he tells the girl to take her own life, and that if she's upset by it, then she should do something about it, right? And she uses that hatred, her fuel for what he said, that she's gonna hurt him, she's gonna kill him. And Guts likes the fact that she doesn't have that suicidal tendency anymore. She wants to maybe pursue something, maybe, but target it towards him. But then he turns around and gives this sorrowful look, and I was like, this is the first, from the even the first read, I knew this character was going to be something special. It was that moment. And Black Swordsman, I don't have overall too many opinions on, but you really start like the way Miura kind of, you understand why he puts it where he does, is you give this impression like to draw the reader in. You got this super badass character, but there's more to meets the eye, and it catches you, and you're like, where is this going? And then you meet the God Hands, and you see Griffith in this like this full outfit, and you're like, what the hell happened? And then you enter the Golden Age. Now, the Golden Age is arguably considered one of the greatest arcs in manga, if not, you know, the best arc in Berserk. And all I'm here to tell you right now, 10 out of 10. I said it, 10 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10 arc, man. There's so much complexity to it. And I was actually talking about this with my friend of mine, Mass, privately in the Discord. And I kind of agreed with him. And I'm going to explain fully. I think that this arc is more about Griffith than it is Guts. Now, don't get it twisted. It's very much still about Guts. But this is more about Griffith's descent to his loss of humanity. You know, in the similar way, this is like Shonen Dio, but without the depth. Now, I'm not here to shit on Dio, but it is what it is. Griffith is Dio, with all intents and purposes, becomes the ugliest of humanity. Betrayal, malice, fear, jealousy, envy, loneliness, everything that a human can succumb to weakness. That is everything Griffith encompasses. Everything that feels like he's so secure about, and he doesn't realize how weak of a person he is. And you know, Guts being there and finally leaving from under his thumb, you know, he realizes that, which leads into the eclipse, where he sacrifices everything and does the ultimate immoral thing that a human possibly can. And the eclipse is basically the turning point, and what is the cause and effect for everything after this point in the series, where it psychologically breaks Guts and Casca as a character. And at first, when I first read this, I was like, this is not it. Even after second reading it, honestly, I was like, this is so messed up, man. Why? But as you segue into the future arcs and you start looking back at what he was doing, you start looking at the subtle thematic storytelling Miura was doing, and I think it is absolutely beautiful. So it didn't hit me till Lost Children, where I realized what Miura was doing with every single arc. And Golden Age, as a setup arc it is still one of the best setups ever, one of the best prologues to the rest of the series ever. So when we get into Lost Children, where you meet where Guts is basically running from this whole situation, he falls into cowardice. He can't look at Casca. He leaves Casca behind because every single time he sees her, it's a reminder. Immediately the thoughts come to him of the moment where Griffith did what he did, and that hatred takes over, that agony, that pain, that fear all comes rushing back, and he doesn't know how to deal with it, so he runs away from it. But when he realizes, when he was on this journey, that the very thing that's left that he cares for was right in front of him, and he ran away from it, he finally accepts defeat. Lost Children helps him realize that, hey, everything that was in front of your eyes, maybe you should keep it around. Like, as much as that it's a painful reminder of what happened, it is the only thing you have left. And when Guts finally puts that guard down, because he tries to do everything and takes the burden on his own, he becomes like that very asshole character, because it's Black Swordsman takes right after Eclipse, and then it goes into, you know, with the stuff with Lost Children, and he finally puts his guard down. He accepts it. He's like, I can't do shit. What the hell I'm just gonna allow people in my lives. And then enters one of the greatest, like, to me, this is one of the, like, after Conviction, there's so much more to it. Maybe I need to make more separate videos. I'm gonna focus more on, I might make a sole video on Guts and a sole video on Griffith potentially, because I think they deserve a video on their own. So, because I feel like I'm not gonna be able to say everything. I have so many thoughts. This video is gonna end up being so long in itself. So Conviction in itself, it was the realization of Guts' cowardice, and that the very thing he wanted to protect, and the last thing that he has last going for him was the very thing that he was running away from. Moving on to Falcon of the Millennium Empire. This is where I think this is my favorite portion in the series. Falcon of the Millennium Empire introduces Shirake. Well, I should also preface that, you know, Isidro and Farnese get introduced, and Farnese's development in itself is so beautiful, right? Her character goes from this very unlikable, very detestable, very disgusting character, right? Very, like, everything that you would not like about a person, but her change is so gradual. Her self-realization of how weak of a character she is, and realizing that maybe if she sticks with Guts here, that there might be some change. And her like, and all it took was from her being a less self-centered person to being more selfless. Her taking care of Casca, all of it beautiful. Like, everything about this shit is so phenomenal. How these characters gradually change. It's not so sudden event that takes place. It's these bonds as their journey grows to save Casca. Guts doesn't even know where he's going, but he realizes, hey, you know, maybe if you go to the Elf Kingdom, there might be hope. And then these people start coming on his journey. Serpico, even against the idea with Guts, says, you know what, this is what Farnese wants, I'll see how it goes. But even his thought process changes because he starts seeing the change in Farnese. Isidro, a man who you know, looks up to Guts like a father figure almost, wants to be just like him, wants to fight just like him. Not too deep of a character, but in himself, he just wants to follow in Guts' footsteps. You have Shirake, who I see as like the daughter figure, who, you know, she didn't have any other relationships besides her master, her mistress. But as she starts growing these bonds, this beautiful, like, family that forms in this arc, and then the contrast of this back and forth you always see in Griffith. Griffith is just furthering his dreams, but he built it on this path of immorality. He built this on this path of disgustingness and this immoral encompass of humanity. Like, he just did everything in a very awful way that no one would ever, if someone knew the truth, they'd be like, they would question that. But no matter what, he goes after his goals. He needs to achieve what he does, and that's what Gus said. No matter what it takes, you know, Griffith is willing to put it all on the line for his goals. And then you see Guts do the very opposite. He doesn't have any ambitious goals or dreams. He just wants to have whatever's left in his grasp to be back to normal, to have that once again. And he's continues to take the harder path in life, because what Griffith did is the easier path, walking over people, stepping over people, using people to achieve your own goals. But Guts did it in a way which is the much harder path, the path where people will step over you. But you know your own principles, your own goals, you know your own moral compass, and the right way to treat humans, the right way to go about life. And his fight against everything that is thrown at him in life is amazing. From his childhood, what Donovan did, to what Griffith did, and that agony, that pain, and he just refuses to let go. He just does not. He's relentless. He will not let anything that life throws at him go. And I think that is the absolute, like, core of Berserk. No matter how shit life gets, are you going to get back up? Are you going to keep going no matter how bad life gets? And when you live it vicariously, by comparison, you look at how horrible Guts' life is, it gives you hope and inspiration. And I noticed this, in shout out to one of my friends, Nathan, I think his name is @BerserkForever. He shared his story of how Berserk saved his life, and it's one of those things where you start really noticing when you get other people's perspective of, like, how important a series like this is. By the way, before we continue onwards, I hope that you're fine with my everywhere I'm going with this, because I don't write scripts. The script is not my thing. I go off of raw emotion wherever my thoughts take me. You're literally just getting all my raw thoughts, every single thing I love about this. I feel like I'm still not going to cover everything because I'll probably end up going for an hour. But let's focus a little bit more on how this series, my perspective on this, right? Like how I look at it now, not just taking a little bit out of the characters, the war. By the way, the art is already like, it's some of the best art in manga. You already know this. Like, you don't need to hear this from me. But I wanted to say that I find it so hilarious when I put off this series and dropped it, because this manga is quite literally everything I was looking for in the last couple years, and I didn't even know it. I love adventure series like One Piece. I love a little bit of action, you know, and who doesn't? I love psychological. Shout out to Monogatari. And little did I know, Berserk was the two very things that my top one manga of all time, once upon a time, was a series of all time, was One Piece. The adventure aspect. Just love that fun universe. And Monogatari, one of the greatest psychological journeys ever. And little did I know, Berserk is the very thing that I loved at different times in my life combined. He has the adventure aspect and it has the psychological aspect. And it's literally everything I looked for, and I found out. I was like, huh, that's kind of crazy. The very thing I was looking for, and I was dodging this the whole time. And yes, it is my top one manga. No, not favorite series of all time. My top one manga. Monogatari still sits on top. I know some people who are gonna be like, whoa, 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 whoa. If you saying that you still put Monogatari above, I gotta check out the series. That's for another time. If you want to check out Monogatari, do so at your will. It is a beautiful series. I hold it at a high regard. And yes, Berserk is still 10 out of 10, and it is my top one manga. As I'm starting to realize that we're like nearly 17 minutes into the recording, nearly 18 minutes actually, that I'm not gonna be nowhere like able to put all my thoughts into one video. So if you're interested in my Berserk videos, please subscribe. Please let me know down in the comments below. The more support I see, the more likely I'm able to probably make a lot more Berserk videos. But I wanted to end off this video with the main topic, which is the ugliness of humanity. Now, what I meant by that. So I feel like each arc, for the most part, kind of encompasses a lot of things that humans tend to, you know, succumb to. The weaknesses of human, right? Where the Golden Age being betrayal, malice, jealousy, all that, right? It's like everything that, you know, I stand against. That is the symbol of Griffith. Then you have lost children, which is cowardice and abuse, right? You talk about abuse with I'm forgetting the little girl's name, but the girl who tried to make her like these like this apostle of an elf, which are not actual elves, and showing how this girl, she, you know, gave up her parents for the sake of peace, because she thought she would never be able to achieve it if she didn't, you know, it's all about greed, right? If you succumb to this weakness of humanity, it all depends on your perspective, right? You have the little girl who did not and refused to become an apostle and saw a brighter end of the tunnel, that there will be a better future that she creates. Then you go on to conviction. It talks a lot about lust. I believe the girl's name is Nina, and you get into her selfishness, her self-centered character, and then it contrasts with the other girl who was like kind of trying to help them, and every single step of the way she had a pure heart, helping everybody. And the Skull Knight, I believe, saves her. But then you have this other girl, and she realizes that if she's ever gonna grow, she has to step away from everybody because of her very selfish and very disgusting outlook on everything, and how weak she is as a person. But she needed someone similar to her, and that's why she takes off with that guy, you know, because she's weak in that regard. And I think the one thing, even though this is my favorite part of Falcon and the Millennium Empire, I feel like if you feel like it has a stronger one, I feel like it thematically had one of the weaker things, but it had the biggest transition point, which is the end with Griffith and how he basically takes over the world. But it has my favorite part, which was the building of the the main people that help Guts heal, but it didn't really have like an overarching theme. But that was all. That was fine, even though it didn't have a major theme. We lead into Fantasia, which I call the Arc of Hope, right? If he finally meets and is able to bring Casca back, not to mention my favorite sequence in probably all of manga, the dreamscape, the symbolism, the amazing way that artistically, metaphorically, symbolically, everything encompassed into this arc, this little mini thing, whatever you want to call it, when Farnese and Shirkei are on this journey that probably spans long time in real time for them, just like bring Casca back, and the way that represents with Guts being the dog and Casca being the casket and just being a doll, and Guts pulling her along, and they're bringing back all her memories and piecing her back together, recreating this doll, which is symbolic to recreating her memories, bringing her sanity back, because in the astral world they're basically inside of her. Dude, it is some of the best shit, the way it builds up, and then when she finally comes back, that smile that she forms, that pure innocent smile when someone asks like, well, how do you feel about Guts, and she left that smile. She thanks everybody. She remembers everything in her way of her shallow mind, in her state. She still remembered everything. Every single member of this cast is amazing in their own way, and they're not just there to be there. They present to such an important role. Miura had a perfect understanding of storytelling. And so this goes back, as I end this video, to the title, because this journey is all about the ugliness of humanity, and it is almost like it teaches you everything not to do. It's almost in its own way is a guidebook to life. As much as crazy as that sounds, that's how I see it. It is a lot of lessons to take away from it, of like, there's a lot of ugly sides of humanity, but it's all up to you how you choose to use it. With that being said, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.